Hello friends and welcome. I'm Sarah Liz and I am back with another emergency card kit. If you're new to my channel, an emergency card is one where we make the cards ahead of time, but we leave the sentiments off. That way, when an occasion arises, we can choose the card that best fits the recipient and the sentiment that best fits the occasion. To help you with this, I release a free printable kit on the first and third Friday of every month, full of sentiments in 3 different shapes, and then a card sketch that shows you how to use each of those different sizes. That way you're ready for any card emergency. Let's take a look at the kit. This is a big one, right? This is, she's huge. It is inspired by the Spellbinders August 2024 club kits, but the theme is color and art and flowers, and I know you're going to be able to use this with so many supplies you already have. So today we're going to go through the kit, and then we'll make some cards with our card sketch, not using those clubs. And then on the 6th, I'll have another video where we use this kit with the clubs. If you want a sneak peek of those cards, you can check out yesterday's video. I will link it below. So we have art washes away from the soul the dust of everyday life, Picasso. Great art picks up where nature ends, Chagall. To create one's own world takes courage, O'Keeffe. Color is my day-long obsession, joy, and torment, Monet. And I feel the torment, me, and trying to mix and match colors. We're practicing, we're getting better. This one gives me all the feels. I am going to mispronounce his name. I think it's Chevroul. He was a chemist, and he said in order to change a color, it is enough to change a background. Or rather, he said it's enough to change the color of the background, right? Because he's a chemist, he's working with colors. But for me, as a teacher in a community college where most of my students have been given some extra obstacles in life, this metaphor is incredible, right? The number of parents I have or students I have who are trying to overcome the background that they have or to give their children a better life. So if you really screw up, send roses. Letitia Baldridge, mistakes have been made. And I see these as like an inside outside. A single rose can be my garden, a single friend, my world, Leo Buscaglia. And then these first 2 rows repeat at the bottom. I promise you're getting a full kit, okay? But here are the circle art sentiments. That circle is slightly larger than 1 3/4 of an inch. So if you wiggle your die or punch till you can't see that circle, you'll know you have it perfectly centered. Then we have the same sentiments and the same sizes, but without that circle. So you could use a different shape or a different size circle if it fits. Then we have those same sentiments as rectangles, and there's a couple more. To plant a garden is to dream of tomorrow. Audrey Hepburn, one of my very favorites. Every flower blooms in its own time. Ken Petty. On the next few pages, we have those same sentiments, but in strip sentiments. Some of those quotes are a little long, so they might go on to 2 lines or a 3rd line. For some of these, you have the option to include the author or not. That's kind of up to you. If you want to keep them together, just skip some of the tick marks when you're cutting them apart. So we have 2 fonts here, black on white, and then the same 2 fonts with white on black. I don't always do this, but I thought it would be really fun in our color kit. Then we have the same sentiments in 2 more fonts, black on white and white on black. On these next few pages, we have sub-sentiments. The small die of the month for Spellbinders is just a bunch of word dies, and a lot of them are pretty generic. We have things like hello, thanks, big thanks, miss you, thinking of you. And so I know many of you already have stamps or dies that would coordinate with that, or you can use other emergency sentiments, even the ones on here. I tried to make them look like headings, but really you get each sentiment in the 3 fonts we have, and you could certainly cut them out in pairs. So for hugs or hugs enclosed, we have the sub-sentiments and attitude. So it's there when you need it. Hello, gorgeous. Hello, you're doing great. You're awesome. It'll get better. Thanks or big thanks for helping me grow. You are amazing. You're the very best. I couldn't do it without you, for putting up with me. Miss you, just so you know. And I left out the yous, and I know it's super cheesy, but I like it and it gets me every time. Miss you and your dumb face. Love you always and forever. I must be losing my mind. Thanks for putting up with me. Thinking of you, but not like a stalker. It's been a minute. And sending you sunshine. Dumpster fires don't burn forever. I've tried to be as efficient as I can with the space here, and so we have 3 fonts instead of 4 for this one. If in the future you'd like to see a different font or one of the fonts subbed out, please let me know. So you get that as black on white and then as white on black. And then we have them bigger. Okay, so again, same sentiments. I removed a few that just got too long. And so when you try to make them bigger, they just don't fit very well. But for the most part, I think we got about 90–95% of the same ones. So we have white on black, and then we have black on white. And actually all of these go together, but my printer really doesn't like that much black right on the edge. So that's why I swapped those. Hopefully that will be helpful for you as well. And then the rest of them in white on black. If you are interested in this free printable kit, all I ask is that you subscribe to my channel. So go ahead and hit that button and then ring the bell to be notified every time there's a new free kit. We're starting a new month. It's sentiment request time. This is the Art, Color, and Flowers kit. I think Get Well is next. There are tons and tons of requests for that, and like Have a Feel Good Day sentiments. If you have other requests, go ahead and put those in the comments below. For September, do we want some Halloween sentiments? We did some last year, but I'm happy to do some more. I think it's a lot of fun. Then the next 2 most requested categories are encouragement and veterans and our service people. And so let me know which of those you want to see next. Beyond that, I am open to all of your suggestions. Here are some of the other things that people have brought up. If you like those, let me know. If you have other ideas, I want to know. And there will definitely be at least one more big holiday kit. So any wording you have for that, I would love to hear it. All right, my friends, let's make a card. This is our card sketch. It's the last page of the printable. And I'm starting with the large gray layer that's 5.5 by 4.25. And then I'm going to use the optional measurements that combines the purple and pink layers. So it's just 5.25 by 4 inches. And I'm going to add some glue and put that centered onto my card base. You could use a card panel here and then put it on a white base, but I'm trying to use up some of my pre-folded card bases. If you want some alternating pattern paper, this is a really great one for it. And maybe you can use up some scraps and use the measurements for the purple and pink layers separately. My pink circle matches the dark gray one. It's 3.5 inches. And then I have 2 squares. The dark one is 3 by 3 and this white one is 2 3/4 by 2 3/4. When I go to layer up these 3 pieces, I find it easier to start with the pieces in front and then build to the back. Somehow I just get them centered a little more easily this way. I'll put glue just in the center of those squares, and really we're rotating it and we're turning it into a diamond. That 3 by 3 inch square is magic because when you turn it to look like a diamond, it fits perfectly top to bottom on our A2 that's 4.25 inches. But I also want that right hand corner to be right on the edge of my card. And when you see the pink and purple layers splitting, they're going to split right behind that diamond. If you want to keep this really simple, just layer your rectangle and circle mats right in the center of that diamond. I love this. It's quick, it's easy. Put whichever one on top that matches the sentiment that you want. But I'm going to bring in some word dies. This is the thank you word die from Spellbinders. It's just that one word. There's actually 3 die sets that I put on the same sheet. The thing is, I love this one, but the letters cut out individually, right? And I know that can be intimidating. So here's what I do. This is my 2-inch roll of scrapbook.com double-sided adhesive. It's really quite affordable and it's perfect for things like this. So I'm bringing in my cutting plates, and I'm actually going to cut into the acrylic plate instead of my magnetic plate for this one because I think it cuts through the adhesive better. So it came out and all the letters stayed in my die. That cardstock is pretty thin, and so it helps with that. And then I'm going to use my craft pick to remove the backing, and I'm just going to set the die right on top of the shadow layer and push on it, especially on the back of that, right? I'll use my thumbs and then I just pull it off and it's perfect. And I didn't have to fiddle with individual letters. Sometimes they don't stay in the die. And so I cut the shadow and the letters out of the same piece of cardstock. And I just use that as a template to inlay my little sticker letters. Really quick and easy. I'm not fiddling with glue and skinny little bits. Right? And you're using so little of that double-sided adhesive because the roll is massive. It's 2 inches by 81 inches. There's also a 4-inch roll that I think is maybe even a little more useful. I like to put it on the back of my card panels if they've warped from some kind of mixed media. This is another very small die set from Spellbinders. It's called the Flowering Tree, and it's literally just this small tree and some flowers and a couple little leaves. And so I'm putting it together very quickly. I need some teacher cards, and that's what we're making here. Before I glue things down, I'm going to cut my sentiment, and I want this "Thanks for helping me grow." So I'm trimming my sub-sentiments so I have tick marks on both sides, and I can line those up right on the blade of my trimmer. And then I will just move carefully down the row, and I'll cut these apart so that I have individual sentiments. So here's the one I want, and I'm going to put that back in my trimmer, and I'm lining up the edge of the letter on the right side of that finger guard. So I know that my margin is the same on both sides. I'm going to mat this on a 3/8 inch strip of black cardstock. I just make sure that the top, bottom, and left-hand sides have the same margin, and then I'll trim the right side until it matches. And then I glued everything down, and it looked ridiculous. Ridiculous. This is what happens when I'm crafting past my bedtime, but I thought I would show you how I peel this apart to fix it. So I am pulling on that diamond towards the center. I know some of the cardstock is going to tear, but I want it to tear under the diamond and not on the parts of the circle that are going to show. Then my general philosophy is to pull the pieces that I'm going to throw away. I want to keep the tree. I want to keep the letters. I don't want to remake those. So I am giving up the diamond. I'm not going to try to save that. And I will pull on that because that cardstock kind of bends and it can get some crease lines in it. So I'm not bending the tree. I'm not bending my letters. And actually, they came apart pretty well. And this is a much better layout. We're going to center that tree and center the thank you on the diamond. And then I'm going to pick this up with my sticky mat. I'm putting it in what is now the bottom left-hand corner. I'll pick it up, add some glue, and then I'll lay it back down in that same corner so that I know everything is exactly where I had it. I don't want to have to redo this again. This is just like a Cricut mat or a silhouette mat. I'll link it below, but I cut it into pieces. It's super handy. I do let that sit there for a minute before I try to peel it off. And then I'm going to add my sentiment. If I had been thinking clearly, like maybe in the morning, I might have stuck that sentiment right between the thank and the you, and I think that would have been great as well. I might have put it on there with removable adhesive like we do, but I'm still really happy with it. Okay, so here's card number 2, and we're going to make a fun fold. I was just playing around, and I was so excited about this, and so I'm showing it to you today. We will still do a stepped up video next Friday as well. I have a piece of black cardstock that is 8 7/8 by 4 1/4 inches. I am going to score this at 5.5, like I normally would for a top folding card. And what I have is a long flap that's A2 and a short flap. That short flap ends right where the points of the diamond are on our card sketch. So it can cover up that split in our card. And you could just put the circle and then the diamond and your sentiment, and you have this fun flap that has sort of an opening to the inside. Okay, so here's a diamond right on there, and you can kind of see it. It will fit perfectly on that right hand side. That's how we had that 8 7/8 of an inch. Otherwise, it doesn't quite fit. I'm not going to use what's in this sketch. The theme of our kit is art and color, and I have this underwater tunnel from the Tunnelscapes collection from Spellbinders, and I just thought this looked like an ink splatter. And so I'm coming in on a pink layer. These are 2 pieces, both cut from the middle tunnel, and I'm using some black shimmer ink, and I am just throwing some on there. And then I'm going to use my fingers to sprinkle on a little bit of gold embossing powder. This is a pigment ink, but it actually dries pretty quickly. So I'm working with a little bit of urgency, and then I'll bring in my heat tool. And I love watching that gold go from like dirt looking to this beautiful shiny something. And this coordinates really beautifully with the pattern paper I have. I pulled it out of my stash. I think it's maybe old stuff from Stampin' Up. So I have cut it using the guides for the purple layer and the pink layer. I have this small one that's 2 4 inches, and I'm closing my flap, and I'm going to butt that paper right up against the flap, and it will create an equal margin on the top, bottom, and right-hand side. Next, I'm going to do some things the hard way, but it's what made sense in my very tired brain. So I am figuring out how I want to layer these two pieces. I just rotated one of them 180 degrees. Then I have some black cardstock that is 5 1/4 by 4 inches. And I am laying these on the card where I think I'm going to want them because I want to cut that shape out of my layer in the same spot. I need to sandwich that black die cut in between the pattern paper and the short flap. And I don't want it to be really lumpy and bumpy because that pattern paper isn't very thick. Once I've die cut it, I'm going to put it in my scoreboard and I'm bringing in my card base so I know where I need this to fold. We're creating a flip-flop card, okay? And I'm going to score just this piece. I want this piece to be glued to the short flap and have the ability to wrap around that short flap. Then I'm just using a little tape to mark on that outline piece where the score line is. And I'm going to trim this off right at that tape, maybe a little inside of the tape. Okay, I want this to hide behind my pattern paper. Okay, so that will go on my card right there. And then I will layer this piece on there and then my pattern paper so it's not lumpy and bumpy. Alternatively, you might just cut another piece of purple sized cardstock, so 3 1/4 by 4 inches, and layer that behind the pattern paper, and then have your little squiggly ink splatter shape. And that would also smooth things out pretty well. So here I am, and I have my outline kind of sandwiched, puzzle pieced around my ink splatter, and I'm adding glue only to the outline. And then I'm going to line up my paper so that I have the margins I want on the top and bottom and on the left-hand side. Then I will pick that whole piece up, okay? So my ink splatter is glued to my flap, and then the outline is glued to my pattern paper, and I have the opportunity to trim off any extra pieces. In theory, I wouldn't have to trim this, but again, this was late. This was late. So I'm going to go ahead now and add glue all over the outline and the back of that pattern paper, and it will just puzzle piece right on top. This was super satisfying. I will say this might have been the hard way, but it was totally worth it. And that gives me the basics for my flap, right? This piece can flip and flop both ways. I'm going to add glue only to the piece of that ink splatter that's hanging out, and then I'm going to glue the other one right on top. This just creates a really clean look when you see the back of it. Then I'll layer on the pink piece, and I'm just going to place it where I want it, and I will lift up sides of it and kind of squeeze my glue underneath. That way I get my placement just right. I want to make sure I'm not gluing that pink piece to the back of my card. I made another flip-flop card on my channel recently in a very different way, and so I'll link to that video below as well, just in case you want another way to do this. So this is the A Little Hello die set from Spellbinders. This came out a little while ago, and there's 3 layers to the hello, which I love. So I'm doing black, white, black, and that white layer has some shimmer to it. But it also comes with a little stamp set. It can say a little hello, how are you, miss you lots, a bunch of other things, kind of like an emergency sentiment. And then there's a die that cuts out all the sentiments at once, which I think is brilliant. I'm just going to grab another of my sub-sentiments from the kit. This kit was inspired by the Spellbinders August clubs, and the small die of the month is just a whole bunch of word sentiments. I'll link to yesterday's video where I gave a preview of a bunch of the cards I've made using those kits, but there will be a tutorial video coming out on the 6th using this emergency kit and the Spellbinders clubs. So I'm adding some glue to my hello and placing that on my splatter. And then here again, I could have used removable adhesive, but I didn't think about it at the time. And it says, hello, you're doing great. And on the inside, I have a piece of cardstock that measures 3 1/8 by 4 inches. And this will layer right on the inside and give me those lovely margins all the way around. I want an inside sentiment too. So this is our rectangle page. And I'm going to put this in my trimmer, and I'm lining up those tick marks right on the blade. And I will start at the bottom and cut up, but I don't go all the way through. I have flaps. I left that header intact so I can rotate and then connect the side tick marks, and I get these perfectly cut sentiments. I want this one at the bottom that says every flower blooms in its own time. I have someone in mind that could use a little bit of encouragement. They kind of feel sometimes like they're not good enough, but they're still learning, and they're so amazing. One of my favorite humans. And so this card is going to them. I've added this one with removable adhesive in case I need more room to write. But that finishes up card number 2. You guys, I love this mechanism. It is seriously one of my favorites. I've been making tons of cards off camera using this. And so I hope that you will give this a try. Here's one more card I made in a live stream with friends. This was the mystery craft along card. If you missed it, I'll link that below. And it has this sliding mechanism that locks that gatefold shut. I've decorated this with one of the party Puggles from BB Cameron, which I think is super fitting. I first saw this mechanism in a video that she made. I will link her video below, and we'll make a card like that one next Friday. Those are our 2 cards for today. I would love to know which of these 2 is your favorite. If you are interested in this free printable kit, all I ask is that you subscribe to my channel and then ring that bell so you'll be notified every time there's a new free kit. If you unpack the description box below the video, click more or show more, you will find a list of all of the videos and free printables that we've talked about today, including the other plants and flowers kit. You'll also find links to all of the supplies we've used and reminders of what categories are coming up next. So if you have ideas for wording, I would love to see those in the comments as well. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you next time.